A man brutally attacks a 65-year-old Asian woman in Manhattan. A stranger makes anti-Asian remarks before slapping an Asian woman in the face. Fresh assaults against a community still reeling from the spa shootings in Atlanta, Georgia, just 2 weeks prior, in which 6 of 8 people killed were women of Asian descent. The possibility that all these attacks were racially motivated has fueled fear and outrage within the Asian community and prompted difficult conversations between parents and their children about racism and violence.
Do you remember when we were talking about the shooting of the Asian women? How do you think? How did it make you feel? Remember when we talked about that?
Well, sad because I'm a little bit Asian.
You are. You're a lot of it Asian. She asked me why somebody would hurt people just because they were Asian. She said, because I'm Asian, so would somebody want to hurt me just because of the way that I look? And I said, sadly, I don't know.
The Center for the Study of Hate and Extremism found that anti-Asian attacks in America's largest cities surged by 149% last year compared to the previous year, even though the overall number of hate crimes declined.
Why? Because the pain from the pandemic is so widely shared that when there's a stereotype and a scapegoat out there in the conspiratorial world, it's easy for people who have an emotional response to then explain away their aggression by tying it to a particular group.
While anti-Asian discrimination isn't new, experts say misinformation about the origins of the COVID-19 pandemic and stigmatizing language from the former Trump administration made it much worse.
The terrible China virus, as we call it.
Alarmingly, many of these assaults are occurring in public places and in broad daylight. And experts say they target a community many attackers assume won't fight back. Alarming as well is that most of the victims have been Asian women, nearly 7 out of 10, according to nonprofit group Stop AAPI Hate. The fear is palpable in New York City, which has seen the highest increase in anti-Asian incidents among major American cities. And it's getting worse. The NYPD says the 39 incidents so far this year has already surpassed last year's tally. Another disturbing statistic, most of the attackers appear to be minorities. NYPD data shows that of 20 people arrested last year for hate crimes against Asians, only 2 were Caucasians, 11 were African Americans, and 7 were Hispanics. But this may not reflect a nationwide trend.
The issue is people attack those who are most proximate. New York City is about half as many whites proportionally than the rest of the country as a whole. It's almost 60% more Latino than the country as a whole. And it's well over 80% more African American.
Regardless of the attacker's ethnicity or whether victims are men or women, old or young, the Asian community says enough is enough.
We are 6% of the country, for God's sake. So when the 6% is being harassed, humiliated, attacked, assaulted, we need the other 94%, 96%, 94% to step up.
In New York, the NYPD last year set up an anti-Asian hate crime task force. In Washington, Congress is weighing legislation to properly investigate and prosecute anti-Asian hate crimes. And the Biden administration has enacted new measures to combat the violence against this community under attack. Liling, CGTN, New York.